I went to the 2024 Baltimore Comic Con looking for a quality Hulk 181, raw or graded. Well, how'd I do? Stay tuned to find out. Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's episode, it is another in a series of videos from the Baltimore Comic Con from this year. This episode is going to be dedicated to my search for the Hulk 181 issue that I've been coveting for a long time now. And right now, I'm making do with this beautiful facsimile copy. It looks really good, having that 9.8, and I know that's something that'll never happen. But my search at this con, as it's been for the last couple years, has been to find a really good copy, whether it was raw or graded. And it's pretty expensive. You guys know this. So my intent was to try to trade for it, at least maybe trade plus cash, but I brought some pretty good books. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some footage of me going around, talking with some of the dealers, looking at some 181s, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what I was going to trade for and if I actually got the book or not. So stay tuned and I'll be right back.
Do you mind if I take a look at the Hulk 181?
It's missing the third wrap and the stamp.
Okay. All right, it's good to know. Thank you, I appreciate that. Hey, how you doing? Can I take a look at your Hulk 181?
If I could have one thing besides the Spidey run, it would be a Batman 210. We have a second one too.
Okay. Just the one?
The other one, yeah, that one has Mark Coolers with no stamp. And the other half, there's the top one for 1,500. Yeah, those are the two we have.
Cool. Thank you, I appreciate that.
How you doing, Chief?
Good. How you doing, Dave?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. What you looking for today?
Got any Hulk 181s raw?
No. Kind of graded.
Got your graded one down there. What is that, 8.0, I think?
I think it is, yeah. You want to see it?
Yeah, I might as well.
Good?
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Number 3, Dad.
Cool.
What's right?
It looks pretty good. Your price is right in the neighborhood. What things are going for right now. You still working trades? You still open for them? Let's see.
If it's something you need.
Yeah. Of course, I know the deal.
It has to be really good for something like that.
Well, that's true. Cool. Well, I'll be back around. You know I will. Thanks, Dave. Hey, man. How you doing? Got any rolls on the Hulk 181s?
No, sir.
That's okay. Can I take a look at the 6.5 and the 7.5? Yeah, absolutely.
But there's the 6.5, man. You can stroke that one.
I wish they'd go back and offer these again. You know, the Steranko label's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
5. Cool. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, awesome. Appreciate that.
There's no problem else.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed some of that footage from the show. You got to see me talk to several dealers. I got to look at a lot of Hook 181s, and my overall take along the way was, boy, they're really expensive. I mean, that's my takeaway. Maybe I should talk about that at the end, but the prices were big, and I wasn't sure if it was going to happen or not. But again, I hope you enjoyed some of that footage. So let's put this down right now. Like I said, this is a placeholder for the time being. But what was my intent going into the show? It was to try to trade for a Hook 181. And I've got some pretty good books that I brought along with me. And I'm just going to spill the beans right now, guys, because it's a little bit of a show and tell episode, but not without having the juice. That's the problem. Problem is, it's my own juice. It's not the juice I really wanted. In the end, I walked away from the show without picking up a copy because the prices were actually outrageous on what was there. The graded versions were easily anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 higher than what the overall current sales were going for. And it got to a point where I was too afraid to even offer a trade for the juice that I brought along. So the way this works is the dealer wants to win no matter what. And I know what was going to happen. If I went in there with these books that I've got right here, I'm going to show them to you what I brought along, some of the things that I brought along to trade. I know what they were going to do. What they would do is they would start with their price, which was astronomically high, and they would start with my books, which were really good, and then they would go to the lowest common denominator, or what the lowest sale they could possibly get. And not only would that really diminish what I could trade for a Hook 181, it just put a damper on the whole thing. And even before I got started, I knew how this was going to play out, because I've dealt with some of these dealers before. In fact, one of the ones that I talked to, I've dealt with him in the past, and he literally come out and said, I'm going to win this deal. And I said, that's fine. We made a trade last year at Baltimore Comic-Con, and I think I got some really good books for what I gave up. But I was willing to give them up for the potential of the books, because I actually got some raw books last year that had some pretty good potential. So I was okay with that trade. But in this case, especially the graded versions I was looking at, I just knew that their price was set way too high, and it just was not going to go anywhere in negotiations at that point. So let me show you what I brought along as some trade bait. I brought along this beautiful newsstand Spider-Man 194 is a 9.6. This book right here can range anywhere. I've seen it as low as $800, but I've seen it as high as, and recently, is up to $1,200. This is basically a $1,000 slab right here as a 9.6, give or take. The market's kind of up and down a little bit on this book, but it is still a really good book. It's a great grade, especially if it's a newsstand. So I brought that along. I also brought along the book that I've been trying to trade the last couple of years, but dealers did not want to touch it. And it's because they didn't think they could find the dealer or a seller, or excuse me, a buyer for this kind of book. And I'm going, that's crazy. There's got to be some big fish out there that would want this book. It is X-Men number 95, The Death of Thunderbird, only the second issue in the new X-Men line. Highly coveted right here. 9.8 I got on this book. I've had this book for over 3 years now, and I cannot get people to touch this book. I mean, is there something wrong with this? Am I wrong? All of a sudden, everyone wants a 9.8, but no, they don't want a 9.8 on this book. I don't know. Again, I didn't pull these books out at the Baltimore Comic-Con this year to even start the negotiation process, because, as I said, I didn't think it was going to go very far. And to be quite honest, the graded books were fine, and that's where I was going to have to go, because all of the raws that I found were either going to be missing the Marvel value stamp, or they were soiled and just in a lot worse condition. And trust me, those prices on those books were as astronomical as the graded versions. The prices they were asking on those were basically, if that book had been graded at that grade that it probably got, that's what it should have been going for, not that price that they were asking for. So wasn't too keen on even offering up any of these books for any of that, what I was finding. It's going to be in the future, hopefully we'll make it back down to Heroes Con. I think I'm going to be trying to go down to maybe the Charlotte Mini Con or some of the cons in the South, because it felt like I was getting Northeastern prices, and man, I don't want to deal with that. It just felt like got dealers who are hanging on to those super high prices from a couple years ago, and they are, don't get me wrong, they are in a position of power at that. I want that Hulk 181, and they know it. They don't necessarily need these books necessarily. So I am relying on that factor right there, is that I can be able to trade these books up to be able to get that book. So I am in a poor position in this situation, but whereas I don't mind giving up a little bit, I felt overall I was going to be giving up a lot, especially on a book like this right here, which only a couple years ago went for $3,200. I think right now it is down to about a $2,200 book right now. But that's if I sold the book and what they could sell the book for. So I would honestly be taking even a lot less as a trade on that book like that. Now, this is a pretty good book too, and I'd be willing to give it up if I could find the right Hulk 181. It is a beautiful copy of Spider-Man number 50, first appearance of the Kingpin, the classic John Romita Sr. artwork there on the cover. You've got, and the interiors, don't get me wrong. 7.5 is a really good grade on this. This is a spectacular copy. I got this from Comic Link last year. It was one of my big books that I wanted to get, and they had some lesser copies that really, down to a 6.0, I think it even had a 5.5 in there, that they had a lot of wear on the spine over here. You could see the color breaks pretty bad, but this right here is an absolute gorgeous copy right here. 7.5 is very respectable. I mean, I'll be quite honest, I think it's undergraded, to be quite honest. I think this is closer to an 8, to maybe even an 8.5. But again, this is a book I'd be willing to give up if I could get that quality Hulk 181. I mean, these are not small books that I'm doing. They're just not, as a single book, as big as that Hulk 181. This one, though, I mean, the way this is worth, I mean, I could go to a low-grade Hulk 181, but I'd also have to have that dealer who'd be willing to give that up as well. Again, I think they're overpricing their books, but they're not going to be overpricing my books. They're going to be underpricing my books. So that's how these trades work. But again, I don't want to give up too much. Another thing I brought along was my second copy of Spider-Man 252 as a 9.8. I had sold one of these. I still have this one available, and I'd be willing to give this up. This book has been going up and down a little bit. My other one I sold pretty good, but I've got some offers on the second one, and I'm not quite as happy with the offers on that one at this point, but I'd be willing to part with that, I mean, as part of a trade, but I'd also be willing to sell it too. Just like any of these books. Most of these books I'd be willing to part with if somebody was interested in. But I was really hoping to make that trade. These are good books. In the years past, I've brought decent books, but small books. Nothing that really, honestly, they were all in that 3-digit range. But in this case, I brought 4-digit books and hoping to add up on that case for lesser books. Years past, I would have had to have had more books and probably some cash involved. And this time, I was kind of hoping that I would be able to combine a couple of these books to get a decent copy. And when I wasn't finding what I couldn't find, that was the first thing. But the second thing, when I saw those prices, I knew that this was not going to work. And maybe that's on me. I didn't approach it and actually follow through with what I said. But I spent most of the day on Saturday after I'd finished with all the signings that I'd done, and before I did the Jim Lee signing, I spent a lot of time going through every dealer, and that's the only thing I was looking for. I spent a lot of time. I made a map of everybody that had the Hulk 181. I made the notes, and I planned to follow up on Sunday. And when I started really looking at a lot of the books, the rolls were, it wasn't that they were rough. It was that they were aged and soiled and dirty and just really a lot more beat up, and a lot more beat up for the price that they were asking for. And overall, I just didn't feel like I had a good starting point with any place to even start negotiations. Well, the last book that I brought was probably the least of the books that I brought along, but I think it's a really good book. And this is the book that I sent into the big 50th anniversary CGC signing with the creative team on Wolverine #1 here, and including Roy Thomas, who recently got announced as a co-creator of Wolverine. I think it's bullshit. I don't buy it. In fact, when I sent this book in, I was hoping for a 9.6. I knew I wouldn't get a 9.8, but I was hoping for a 9.6. This book right here, I ended up getting all of the creators that were there that worked on this book. Roy Thomas didn't work on this book. In fact, I don't even think he was at Marvel in 1980. But I ended up getting Frank Miller, Joe Rubinstein, Chris Claremont, Gwyneth Oliver Marsh, and Tom Orzechowski. And honestly, this is a book I probably should have taken to the con, had them break out and put Louise Simonson on this book, because she was the editor on this book before she was married to Walt. I should have done that. That should have been my project at the Baltimore Comic-Con this year. But I brought this along. Right now, I've got this valued at $1,000 only because of the number of signatures, but I think I'm way over the market on that. This is probably closer to a $500 book at this point, being a 9.4. But again, this is a book I would have been willing to part with as part of a package deal to be able to get that Hulk White 81. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the story. Let's go ahead and put the facsimile up, because as the story ends here, I'm going to have to live with my facsimile for the time being. I still got some good books here. I mean, I may sell them along the way and may have to find some other books to trade eventually, but I'm not going to go out there and just pay cash for a Hulk 181. It's not going to work. I'm going to go via the route of hopefully trading for it. So if you guys, anybody out there who's got a good copy and are willing to trade for some of these books right here, or maybe some of the other books I pulled along, I still have another half box down here of some beautiful Dave Stevens covers from some of his best books with 9.8s on them. I brought that along as well. Those aren't as valuable as any of the ones I just showed you, but I had a lot of juice right here. If you guys are ever interested, though, just reach out to me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com or DM me on my Instagram account. You can find me there at Collector Auctions. You can also see what I currently have for sale, and some of these are actually on for sale. Not this. This is just a personal PC book. But the other books, a lot of those are already for sale on eBay, and I'd be willing to negotiate with you off of eBay, save you some fees, as well as save me some fees as well. So that's probably the best way to go. But definitely easiest way is to email me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com. It's probably the easiest way out there. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you will continue to watch the other videos in this series that I took from the Baltimore Comic-Con. I don't know which order they're going to come in, so hopefully there'll be this won't be the last one, and this will sound really strange, but there will be some other videos coming out as well. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here today. Definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about the books that I have for trade and what you think of the current market. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Until then, guys, take care, and remember, every comic has a story.